Hello, I'm Chris Hunsinger. We're going to go over historical criticism. This is class for Miss Keegan and it's British literature. So, what is historical criticism? And historical criticism is how we can look at a piece of literature and the context of it. We can look into the history of the author and the time that the piece was written to understand why it was written that way. Our book gives an example of historical criticism. It talks about a piece of work wrote by a journalist about the Vietnam War. And then you can compare that to a piece of work wrote by somebody in the Vietnam War. Which one would be more credible? Most people would want to read the piece from the soldier that was in the Vietnam War, not the journalist that had no involvement in the war. So, where did historical criticism come from? Some reports claim Richard Simon created it because he found discrepancies and duplicates in the Bible. How do you use historical criticism? So, first, you're going to research the author's life and relate that information cautiously to the work. Then, you're going to research the author's time, which is his political history, economic history, intellectual history, etc., and relate that information cautiously to the work. Then, we're going to research how people reasoned during the author's lifetime, the patterns and limits involved in making sense, and relate those logical strategies to the work. Questions that will help us with historical criticism. First one is, how can you connect the author's life to his or her writing? Are there common issues, events, or concerns? How can you connect the literary work to its historical context, including its literary context? Author part of a dominant culture or a colonial culture or a post-colonial culture? How does that status affect the work? So, an example of historical criticism I've attached a poem by Maya Angelou called Caged Bird. We're going to read the poem and then we'll go over some examples of, we're going to practice historical criticism using this poem. So, a free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream until the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and this tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees. Fat worms waiting on the dome bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with the fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, where the caged bird sings of freedom. So the author talks of a bird in a cage that has a song but is held back. If we investigate the author, we can learn some things that we could use to help us to understand this poem. So Maya Angelou was born April 4th, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri. She had a rough early childhood and was denied opportunities as a teenager because of her race. Just from understanding this little piece of her life, we could assume her poem is about her and and the challenges she faced. So I'm going to compare historical criticism to psychological criticism. So what is psychological criticism? Psychological criticism is a criticism that asks why you did what you did or wrote what you wrote. If we use the same poem to compare historical criticism to psychological criticism, we can learn the author could have written this poem to express things that affected her psychologically. So if we were to ask these questions about psychological criticism, it could help us out. So, what appears to be motivating the author or character or even the reader? What other motivations, repressed or disguised, might be at work? What developmental concepts might help to explain this behavior? We could learn the author may have written her poem to express traumatic events that happened in her life. So, to get a better understanding of this, if you'll look at my works cited page, I have a few links that could help you better understand historical criticism. I encourage you to use the poem Caged Bird by Maya Angelou as a tool to practice historical criticism. I also have an attachment of Maya Angelou's biography. If you will look at that, that'll really help you understand why she wrote The Caged Bird. So here's my works cited page. Like I said, we have a link here for Maya Angelou, her biography. Could definitely help you with historical criticism because it really looks into her life. And then the second link is the link for her poem called Caged Bird. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.